And I think economically as well. And also, I know this stuff that's going on with the Houthis. Apparently, that really doesn't bother the Israelis. What it bothers is maybe a few Israeli oligarchs who own shipping companies. They're like, oh no, but
they're not just going after Israeli ships. They're going after anybody who shows up in their
exactly, and that's why it's a problem for Europe and China, because that's where that's the trade between Europe and China goes through.
That's a hugely important shipping lane.
Yeah, for China.
I think the Likud party has been pretty.
I like seeing Europe do poorly
outspoken
as well,
about the Houthis, right? Like it's not just Israeli bureaucrats. Like it's the main party in power. Netanyahu's party.
Well,
a problem with it.
Well, the Houthis are.
China spoke out against the Houthis. Nobody likes the Houthis.
Well, I mean, Iran likes
the Houthis in Iran. They're like, like this, but
Hamas,
North Korea loves them.
I feel like Hamas very openly at this point acknowledged that they, in part, did what they did on October 7th because they were trying to draw in outside forces and turn it into a larger regional Hezbollah and more Iranian proxies.
Hezbollah whoever runs Hezbollah, that's a smart cookie, as Trump would say. Because he didn't do shit. All his I'm sure they finance them and they influence them. But whoever the guy who flies that Hezbollah flag, not an Iranian flag, that guy who's in charge of it, decided not to get involved.
There was some fighting in the north, like southern Lebanon and northern Israel, but they didn't. They certainly didn't. The Hamas was not successful ultimately in turning it into something much bigger. I guess the idea is that for the Abrahamic Accords and the normalization of between Saudi Arabia and Israel, Hamas felt like, okay, we need to pop the fuck off because it's kind of now or never.
Yep.
But it fucking sucks because now they're just so much further away from a Palestinian state, and it's not like the Palestinian people in Gaza have a say in terms of like military operations.
Yeah, they're just getting destroyed every single day.
Somebody challenged me the other day to solve that thing. It took me 15 minutes. Solve the whole fucking thing.
Really?
You gotta have it. So a two-state solution is going to be non-negotiable. But here's the thing. Here's what will make everybody happy. You know that maybe it's off the coast of the UK. They call it Sealand or something. It's like the world's smallest country. They just got a little platform out there.
Sure.
That's where the Palestinians go. And look, here's the thing. We, the United States, just sent a boat out of Virginia, and they're heading to, you would guess it, Israeli waters. They're going to build them a pier so that we can more readily give them things.
I think we should. I think it should be left up to chance entirely.
Build a couple of oil rig platforms out there. Set them up with some tents.
When you say leave it up to chance, if the current pressure that the Biden administration and other international forces are putting on Israel is to not permanently occupy Gaza. So if Trump wins in 2024, for example, it's pretty obvious that he's going to give Netanyahu the full green light just to annex Gaza. And then it's I don't know, maybe Egypt is just forced to take in refugees. I don't know how that's going to.
They won't. No, it would be Europe that would be forced to take them, or us probably, right? Because Egypt has already stated they're not going to take any.
No, send them to fight in Ukraine. That's how
I was going to say, coin flip. Then all the head Jews and the head Palestinians have to be whatever the result of this is, we will abide. Loser of the coin flip, their whole group goes to Madagascar.
It has to be a two-state solution, but Netanyahu has to be ousted democratically, and Hamas, they can't remain in power. That's just not tenable, I don't think. Do you guys think I don't know, do you guys think it's obviously a really complicated issue, but do you think that some level of force is justified in the pursuit of disarming Hamas?
I mean, I think that I think the amount of force that Israel is showing is absurd, and that they are waging a destructive campaign against the Palestinian people right now. And that's clear by the video evidence. It's absurd. So bigot. Bigot, Nazi,
hate monger.
Hate monger. I don't think that we're going to solve an ethnic conflict 1,000 years old. And so I don't want to be involved with Israel whatsoever or with Palestine. It's not our business. It doesn't help us to be involved. It makes us global foes the world over. It's negative. It costs $1 billion, and it's
why 9/11 happened.
Taylor's pretty consistently isolationist, whereas I prefer the hypocrite route and choose battle by battle.
Yeah, I said the same thing about Ukraine and Russia. I don't care what the Ukrainians and Russians
because I'm the guy that likes the United States to have its fingers in all the pies. When I see those Pacific fleets start sailing out, spreading out, taking control of entire regions. When I watch those YouTube videos about how much firepower like this boat or that boat has, I like that shit. I like that the world runs on dollars, and people can pretend like they're going to switch to something else all they want. They won't.
Well, a lot of people will call that like American imperialism. Like I don't know if you guys have ever seen like that bullshit.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen the bullshit map?
We should take Mexico.
I haven't seen the bullshit map.
There's a bullshit map that goes around online where it's like an American flag where like every American military bases in the world, except it's like clearly bullshit because they have like bases in Iran and stuff. It's like, wait, what the fuck? But
those are
a lot
really
like, and I
they don't know about those.
I used to look at it the same way for a really long time. But the only country I think that doesn't want American bases in their country is Cuba. I think, and then everybody else, like we work closely with the Somalian government to like help them deal with their problem with terrorism, and like there's no country that like is pissed that America has a military base like in their backyard.
Does Haiti have any? They could use a few.
I mean, Russia doesn't like it.
They keep asking, but we keep saying no.
You're not blaming NATO for the Russian invasion, are you?
No, I was saying that's why Russia justified it. Is they're saying that Putin said we don't want military bases in our border in Ukraine, and then we're like, we're going to do it. And
they also
was like, well, fuck
they're
you.
liberating Ukraine from the Nazis that run them.
Yeah, I'm not defending Russia. I'm saying like that's their rationalization for it. Like Putin did say years ago, like I'm going to do something if you try and do this.
My goal was to discredit Russia because I think the reality is nothing. What the reality is and what they say are completely unrelated. The real reason they took Ukraine is they wanted the land, they wanted the breadbasket, they wanted the warm water.
I think
force.
The same thing with Star Wars. That's the U.S. and Vietnam. That's the U.S. is the evil empire, and Luke Skywalker and the boys, they're the Vietnamese, and maybe the fucking Buddhist monk burned himself alive as the Jedi. I don't know, but that's what was going on then.
Well, he didn't self-immolate in protest of the war. Did you know that? He was protesting actually something else at the time. He was
protesting that he got caught releasing documents, and he was like, while I burn myself to avoid these document charges, I think I'll yell Free Palestine.
Oh, that guy. Wait, he was...
No, he's talking about the guy who self-immolated. The other guy, the guy from 60.
Well, I was originally talking about Buddhist monks in Vietnam, but there was that guy, that Air Force guy who self-immolated like a week or two ago.
And they were celebrating him. Like there were like this like bunch of like going back to TikTok, a bunch of like TikTok Zoomers were like lionizing this guy. And there was this whole thing where H3 was he was saying like I don't think it's good to glamorize, which I think is the correct take. I didn't
even think of it from the suicide thing because it's a different kind of suicide. And like I think when you're looking for a way out or whatever, you really need to like explore some other fucking options. It's an awful thing. However, suicide for an ideal is a different thing.
Dude, though, when you look through his old Reddit posts, this dude was fully radicalized, like full.
No shit.
Yeah, he burned himself alive.
There's a hot take.
Yeah, he was radical. I would say I'm going to go so far as to say too radical.
I got my hot take joke. All right.
Maybe it's a bit redundant.
Fire tonight.
But he was he was just full on. Like, I guess it's just there's a lot of people where their whole political philosophy is centered on America bad, and then everything springs from that, and so you just become fully indoctrinated.
Was a hoax, Hutch?
What's up?
The Reddit thing is. Did you read shortly following?
No. So there was one specific post that was doctored, but you can't like you can go to like archived. They deleted his account, so you can't go to Reddit itself to see it, but there's an archived version of his logs, and you can just read everything that he was typing, and it was just it was apparent that he was just fully I think he tacitly endorsed October 7th, for example.
A lot of people
I did see that.
Yeah, a lot of people like just straight up outwardly did it on Twitter. It was funny to see like random rappers get in trouble. Rappers politics is one of my new favorite things because it's a lot more right wing and radical than you'd ever think. Like I feel it's
right wing.
Lady rappers are super radical. They're celebrating October 7th and stuff like that. The male rappers, a lot of those dudes are right wing. A lot of those guys are Trump guys.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of like there's obviously a lot of like free Palestine stuff with like younger artists right now.
Yeah.
I think like it's so tough because it's like obviously I think most people, I would assume all of you guys believe that the Palestinians deserve their own state and autonomy and dignity and all that, but sure. I don't, when I get up to the line of like Hamas good, that's where I'm like, no, I'm not with you on that one.
Well, that's absurd.
I mean, we've got so much land in the Midwest. I was thinking, Taylor, that we could get all them Palestinians and just give them like Wyoming. Like we're not doing shit up there. North Dakota.
Get to the flyover states.
It is not.
We even use those.
We'll flip a coin. We'll give them one of the Dakotas. Dude, problem? Do you know what a resource the Palestinian people could be? Look, now you don't realize this, Taylor, but first world nations are clamoring to get first pick at the Palestinian people. There's a lottery system right now, and a lucky few First Nations are going to get,
lucky few.
Taylor, it's said that if you take all the Hamas and put them in St. Louis, that the murder rate will go down.
I don't know. We can try it.
Did you guys see that this conflict and the discourse around it like ended the H3 Hassan?
I really don't know anything about those guys.
You're not plugged into them at all?
Not trying to stay away from that sort of thing.
What happened? Were they friends and now they're not, or is the
they did a podcast together for I want to say like 2 years. It's called The Leftovers, and it was a really interesting cultural kind of like online cultural moment to watch that friendship sort of disintegrate over time because it started to fray during like a conversation about like capitalism versus communism stuff. And what had happened was like H3 had, whether intentionally or unintentionally, cultivated through his partnership with Hassan, cultivated like a really left-wing audience, like a hammer and sickle, like we need to like destroy capital kind of like audience. And they started to like have this like disagreement where Ethan was like willing to say, there's plenty of flaws with capitalism. There's a lot of gaps. There's a lot of poverty, but I'm just not with you with the whole like Chinese kind of stuff, like or like full on hammer and sickle stuff. And then like a few months later, it culminated this fracture of their friendship with the Palestinian Israeli conflict because Ethan is a dual citizen. Like he has citizenship in Israel. He has family in Israel.
His
and so
girl is Israeli, right? Also as dual. Yeah.
And so a lot of Ethan's audience were, I mean, some of them were just full on like actually celebrating October 7th, and so like Ethan was he was like saying like, look, I'm willing to tell you like what the Israelis have been doing to Palestinians for decades is wrong, and fuck Netanyahu and fuck the Likud party and fuck the Israeli Palestinian the treatment of Palestinians, but Hamas, like what they did is fucking not good. And then like a bunch of the audience were calling him like a racist, genocidal, apartheid supporter. And dude,
they call us that all the time. They don't mean it.
That just means hello in online talk.
Yeah, that's just howdy.
That's how they think.
It was an interesting kind of like it was an interesting moment because it's just like,
for him to realize that's that's pretty awkward.
So there was a big schism in both of their audiences.
They don't do the podcast anymore, and it was just too much. Like there was like
free and open discussion had a limit for them. Yeah,
and that was a pretty big podcast. So to like walk away from that was like pretty significant.
You think the audience divided them mostly?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was the conflict and the audience. There's this thing called audience capture. Are you guys familiar with the concept of audience capture? It's like, so if you're like an influencer person and you cover politics or you cover cultural stuff, and you end up cultivating an audience over time, like you guys have cultivated kind of like a slightly more right-wing audience, I would say, right? And but like what happens with a lot of creators is they start to notice like, oh, well, I'll get, you either consciously or unconsciously know, like I'm going to get more engagement if I frame certain things this way or that way. And so there ends up being this sort of like, extremism pipeline that happens, and then it gets to a point where the creator, they're not really being authentic with their thoughts. They're relaying what they think their audience is going to want to hear. So you know,
Zach phrased it really well. Let me read it because it's interesting. Audience capture is a self-reinforcing feedback loop that involves telling one's audience what they want to hear and getting rewarded for it.
And then they have to go further and further. So they're like, oh, when I'm talking about how awesome Stalin was, I get lots of likes and comments.
Well, see, it's people easy to calling get around that comrade. Though. We just always, one of us has to disagree so that we're always on both sides. We literally are. It's very rarely that all three of us are like full. And
if we all agree, someone will jump on the other side.
Yeah, and then if we all agree, there's at least a dissenting opinion from somebody. They're like, look, all right, I'll co-sign that. Yeah, but here's the thing about that. You need to have a little. You need disagreement.
Yeah, it's not so interesting to listen.
But here's where I think our show does it a lot in like the meanness, right? So this is a show where we laugh at people fighting cars and think it's hilarious at that mismatch, and then the audience turns that same spirit on us, and it's like, well, don't be surprised, fucknard.
Yeah, if we got hit in a parking lot, they would have no sympathy.
Exactly.